Hi everyone, as you can read this one that how to prepare for an interview and test automation topics to cover before an interview. So we get anxious before an interview and we got nervous that I got through that we really wanted to touch base on every topics wherein we have the expertise on or what all the requirement and what all really need to be we need expertise or the tools we should be knowing and we can brush up our concepts. So I think that is something we'll be keep on revising and sometimes we miss it also. So I think this is the slide wherein you can put a bullet mark and you can write down those topics wherein you really need to touch base and how you can get those topics from the JD and everything. I'm gonna tell you in this video that what all really required for you to do before your interview. Once you get a call, I think you are preparing for the interview, but before an interview I think there were 2-3 days they'll give you, and what you really need to do in those 2-3 days, I think this slide will help you out in that. So let's quickly go. Okay, so first one is the understand the role before the interview and research the role of a test automation engineer and understand the responsibilities and the skills required. So basically we have to research like basically like for your experience 3 or 4 years, so what exactly the skills are required. You can get it from the Google also, you can get it in a lot of YouTube channel also, and you can also see the JD. Okay, in the JD like if you get a call from any of the HR or anything, you can surely ask the job description. So in the job description, basically the tools and technologies and the year of experience, mostly sometimes it's like overhyped, but mostly sometimes it is accurate also. So the tools and technology they have mentioned, and also try to reach out some of the LinkedIn connections from this particular role and get some expertise or get some what areas of work they are doing and what tools and technology they are using vastly, and what kind of work they are doing and what kind of projects they have it. So I think if you can reach out any of your LinkedIn connections, or you can find it out from the same particular experience or from the same particular organization, I think that person will share you some list of topics, and that I think really help you out, and I think they will highlight most for example what tools they are using. So mostly in terms of test management tool, they are doing different ways, and in Selenium what kind of framework they are working. I think many organizations works on different frameworks, like they also have their own hybrid. So some people will mostly work on API. So if somebody asks me, I'll for my project, if they are hiring, I will say that okay, the APIs are also equivalent important as a UI automation. So I will also say that prepare for UI automation as well as API automation if somebody asks me. But sometimes it is UI automation only, and sometimes it is SQL also. They widely use SQL if you go to for any of the banking firm. So like that, and you really need to mention that you're when you're sharing your experiences. Okay, so you really need to share the tools and the framework, which framework you're working on. You shouldn't be saying that hybrid like which all you have combined in that hybrid, and which tool, like you're using Selenium or APM, how you're using it. If you're using data driven and everything, you have to tell that how you're doing. Even if you say data driven, you will say that we'll be using APM or anything. If you're doing mobile testing also, you really need to mention everything, and not like in a sentence but in a bullet points you can share while you are giving your introductions in terms of tools and technologies where I've already worked in. So mainly the questions drive like tell me something about yourself and your work experience and what tools and technology you worked on. So can you give me a brief about it? So I think that will be the question, and I think you really need to prepare the answer for this question. Be familiar with the programming language and be prepared to talk about your experience with programming languages. And you have to prepare, being an automation tester, I think you really need to prepare you really need to expertise any of the programming language, be it Java, Python, JavaScript or C Sharp. I think I have this is I think a duplicate slide as well. Okay, fine. Then we can have you can also demonstrate any problem solving skills, or you also have to prepare any of the logical questions. So I remember when I was went to some of the scientific games, I just named an organization wherein they asked me some puzzles related questions. So I think that is something also Puzzles related questions also you really need to prepare if you're going in such of the organizations wherein these puzzles and all, if you can see it into a Glassdoor also, there you can also see some of the questionnaire based on the organization. So a lot of people go and share their experiences over there, like for this organization what kind of questions they ask. So I or also your problem solving skills. So if you're telling some challenges or anything, so you have to really show them that you have some kind of skills also, like problem solving skills, and how you approach your testing. So if you are giving some of the answer, like prepare some of the questions like what all challenges and what is your roles and responsibilities. Those questions you really have to prepare, wherein you shows your skill set also. It's not about what you're doing it, you really have to tell them, but you have to tell or mold in a way that you show some of your skills also. It's not like you just have to, they ask you the question and you gave them the answer. It's not like that. You have to sell yourself. So you have to in every answers you have to present, you have to tell your skills, that this is your skill set. You have no, and you cannot directly sell that, okay, I have this, I'll follow this testing approach, I have a problem solving skills. No, you have to create a scenarios wherein it reflects those qualities or skills of yours, and share your understanding of agile and DevOps. So when you're answering it, you really need to use terms of agile and DevOps. What exactly? It's not like agile and DevOps, but the process involved in these two areas you really need to explain, like how agile worked. Like we follow agile methodologies wherein we have this, we have 2 weeks of sprints, we have a demo, like that, and we adapt the culture of frequent requirement changes, and we are ready for, we can adapt those changes into our current sprint and everything like that. So DevOps environment, that we do continuous CI/CD pipelines, we run our code into daily pipeline, there is a nightly schedule, builds are running, and wherein we publish the reports and we worked on the improvements after those reports are coming. We'll see we have the comparison reports of dev, test 2, or U8 environment, or staging environment, or prod environment. We have some of the builds where we have some limited builds for the prod environment wherein it run on the daily basis or maybe quarterly basis. We also have uh, after every build we also have some phenomenal, or we have configured the pipelines which generate a smoke report after every build, and it published to the stakeholders in the form of mail, like that. Be ready to answer questions about test automations, best practices. Be prepared to discuss best practices for the test automation, such as maintaining test scripts, testing for different environments. And these are the questions coming out, how you do it. So that's how you work in your automations, what all practices you follow, how you do the PR and PR review, like that. So you have to convey that we are following the best practices. So whatever best practices are there, you have to convey. That's how you're selling your skills. You have to sell all these answers also. Okay, so then be familiar with different test automation tools. In addition to the tools and the frameworks you have already used, be familiar with the popular test automation tools such as Test Complete, TestNG, or JUnit. So you at least know the difference between all these three, or many more, which we are using it into the current organization. Like what all advantages of new version of Selenium, new version of WebDriver, everything you should be knowing. The advantages of it, why we are using it, like Selenium Grid and everything. So be familiar with the API testing concepts, understanding basic of API. At least you should know. I think my all followers should be knowing what is API, how does APIs work, okay? And API request response, everything. In terms of coding, nobody gonna ask you like how you gonna write the post request, get request. I also did the mistake. I used to tell the code to the people, which actually not required. You really need to understand the phenomena of get, post, or put and everything. You should know the standard of it, okay? You shouldn't have to write the code. I usually, when I was 3 years, I usually tell them the code, why we are doing. No, nobody requires that, okay? Be familiar with the API testing tool, understand the API testing tools are available, Postman, SOAP UI, and the difference and the capabilities and limitations, advantages, and HTTP client, what it is. I think you should know the terms which are using in terms of API. So understand the REST and SOAP, understand the difference between SOAP APIs and REST, be able to write the test scripts. Okay, not test the script. Basically, they'll ask you the logics and the coding things. Basically, they don't ask. They mostly ask Java questions, like, and that is very basic. I think it's like if you join any of the courses, those are the very like 2-3 minutes questions, like star pattern and stuff like that. Understand the importance of API documentations. Understand the importance of API documentation and able to use accurate test cases. Understand the importance of security testing for APIs, understand the importance of security testing, and be familiar with the tools, techniques that can be used to test APIs for security vulnerabilities. So in terms of API testing, you really need to understand some definitions of security testing, just basic of it. Be familiar with the API testing in context of integration testing. Understand how API testing can be done as a part of integration testing to test the integration between two systems. So with the APIs, I think we just send the logs, and what happens is sometimes in the API testing is like you really need two testers to test that. So one tester is like when we are sending input, that input they are receiving and not as an output of their API input request. And whatever you are sending it out, right, you're sending input or something. So whatever I'm sending, it will like my input is their output, like the cascading form. So whatever for example is if their DB is merged with my UI, they are like two systems, like system A and system B. So B system DB is merged with A system UI. So whatever I'm seeing it in the UI, the same should be reflected in the B system DB. So that kind of testing they does it. So I think those integration testing is also, and there is a two type of testing: system integration testing and in module integration testing, and you should be knowing the difference between both. So yeah, be familiar with the API testing in the context of load testing. Okay, this is also like what you do, the load testing and performance testing, how APIs can be, like what all tools you're using, and that tools what all parameters you are verifying. So in terms of load testing, when you're using load runner, you will be using the correlation ID, and for all the API like how you gonna do it, you can increase the virtual users and and hit the same platform, and then correlation IDs of every request can tell you the difference, the load difference, what it is happening. Be familiar with the API testing in the context of continuous testing also, and the same thing which we are doing it, and then understand the importance of test automation in the context of API testing. And I think the limitations of API testing are also important, which you can advantage and everything. API testing is also important, guys. That's why this slide I mentioned that not only concentrate on UI automation, APIs are like APIs are the futures, and everything is through APIs, and everybody should know the API testing. API is really important. Be ready to talk about test automation in the context of continuous integration, and I think this is also the important. CI/CD is also very important topic. I think don't prepare like Selenium only and the Selenium script. You really need to prepare API testing and the CI/CD. I think that is SDET role. So if you're going for SDET role, I think these are very important things. So if you're stuck to manual, I think go and upgrade yourself with API testing and these areas. Understand the importance of test automation, documentation, and documentation like test plan, test cases, and test results. I think these are very important. How you're creating in your test management tool, everything is very important. I think that's all. We don't have that thank you slide, and tada. I think these are the topics are very. I think you can stop the slide when I'm going a little faster, because I think there is no pause thing. I think there is not much explanation is required, but I give you some tricks. I think that will really help you out in your interview. I think that is the most important thing, and I wish you all the best, guys, and please like and subscribe to my channel. I have never mentioned, but I really need a subscriber to help me out to get to 10K, and I wanted to make my family a little big. So yeah, thank you so much. Bye bye, guys.